Welcome to the Uncooperative Radio Show with Brian Bonner, the finest uncooperative conservative radio on the net. Kicking down the walls, blowing away the smoke screens. You cockroaches, and you know who you are. You can run, but you can't hide. Brian Bonner stands for truth, justice, and the American way. Enemies of America, foreign and domestic, consider yourself on notice. Uncooperative Radio is coming for you.
Okay, and welcome to the Uncooperative Radio Show. I'm your host, Brian Bonner.
Welcome to the Uncooperative Radio Show with Brian Bonner, the finest uncooperative conservative.
Stop.
Well,
Why does it do that?
I don't know, but you know what? We're not the only people that have technical difficulties.
Yeah, well, I'm sorry, but I just had to load operating systems onto two new computers and reload everything, and I just got the browser up before the show and everything ready to go, and I forgot to look at that because I figured it remember my settings. Do not loop the music.
Do not assume.
They're annoying me. That's what I'm saying. Anyway, welcome to the show. I'm your host, Brian Botters, and with me is my lovely wife and producer, Susan. Say hello, Susan.
Hello, America.
Why does it keep doing this? It wants me to set up my email address now. All right, so we're going to start off with the Democrat meltdown.
No, go up to the description, honey.
I don't have to read the description.
I will.
Oh.
Brian will opine on what is happening now in our country. Then, since our economy is in the tank, Brian wants to remind us what past presidents did to stop the economic struggles we are having now, both during the Reagan and the Calvin Coolidge administrations. So what should you know about SSI, Social Security insurance, that they are not telling you? Then, if we get to it, the ups and downs for the week.
All right, so what I wanted to check out here is exactly what is happening.
Oh, no, you're going to troubleshoot while we're on the show?
What is happening here? All right, so looks like we're too low, and it looks like something is adjusting it, which it's not supposed to. Yeah, it is. All right, well, whatever's adjusting it seems to think that that's loud enough. I hate things that automatically do things, especially since I told it not to do it.
And everybody wants AI. Are you kidding me?
Well, if I had AI, I could tell the AI to fix it. I mean, what the hell? Oh, there's no way. I don't think there's any way to even do it here. Settings. Audio. I can. Look at that. I'm just new to this whole thing. It says do not automatically adjust my. And yet something is. So now, after the show, I got to hunt that down. That'll be fun. Well, at least it's Linux. It'll be easier than Windows. Yes, that's why I turned all my computers into Linux. I got rid of Windows completely. I hate Windows. I hate Windows. I hate Windows. I hate Windows. Did I say I hate Windows?
Yep.
Okay, because I hate Windows. All right, so the Democrat meltdown. Joe Biden getting I don't know what the
Wuhan virus.
That does not say that.
I know. You said you were going to make fun of me.
That is not even close to
Wuhan.
How you spell Wuhan. It says Wu-Hua. and virize. Okay. So, yeah, he's got tested positive for COVID-19. Oh, boo-hoo. So he gets to go hide in the basement again. That's how he got elected the first time.
He got 6
Well,
shots.
he didn't get elected, but you know what I mean.
6.
He already, keep taking shots. He had all the shots. All of them. They're saying now that might have caused him to throw clots and cause him to have CVAs, and that's why his brain's all messed up. Keep taking those vaxes. Go ahead. It's not even a vaccine. I don't know why we call it that. It's an RNA messenger, not a vaccine.
Well, CVA stands for what?
Cerebral vascular accident. If you knew, why'd you make me say it? So the head, what? The head of the head?
I told you.
This is what happens when you do the stuff late at night. The head of the secret crevice being sounded by Congress critters as she, what does that mean, sounded? By Congress.
To just tell them, you saw it, I didn't. I was just going off of memory.
Accosted? Well, I didn't see the thing you were talking about. I just saw her get accosted at the RNC when she was going in before she in the lobby. They came at her for 20 minutes. I don't know why she would even dare to go to the convention of the president. She got shot. Yes, she's responsible. And it was a big, you got to be kidding me moment. The Secret Service failed. And them telling me that they're, farming things out to local police. Since when? You work with them. You don't farm anything out. This is their whole narrative. That building was supposed to be cleared by local PD. That building was used as a staging area for officers. And he was on the roof shooting at the president of the United States. But they're saying, that's why I think they're just like making this up. No one's even said it from the Secret Service. But they're saying that they didn't shoot right away. Because if you notice, the snipers waited until after he was shooting. And he shot quite a bit before they shot and took him out. They said, well, they thought he might have been a police sniper. I said, he wasn't in uniform. Why would they think he's a police sniper?
And I got this from watching The Five, and Harold, who's on the forum, he was appalled that the Congress critters would do this. He was flabbergasted.
Do what?
Follow her.
Oh, screw her. She should have never been there.
She should be shunned.
She should be out of a job. I heard she stepped down in the beginning, and then, no, she's not stepping down. Someone should fire her because she didn't do her job. Of course, it doesn't help that, dirty old smelly sock puppet decided that Secret Service had to be 45% female, regardless if they're qualified for the job or not. DEI hires. And by the way, as much as they love that woman that was trying to cover President Trump in taking him off the stage, she failed to do so because she's too short. She should never have been on the details. She can't cover the president. She's too damn short. Again, why? Because she's a woman? I don't care if she's willing to take a bullet or whatever. She's great. And, I heard one of the sons, I think it was not Don, the other one. Eric. Oh, yeah, he loves her. Oh, she's wonderful. I'm like, oh, well, she shouldn't have been there.
And I was listening to Dana Lash, and she did a scenario.
Oh, not Dana Lash. She's still around?
Oh, yeah.
She's looking pretty old.
So, no.
Look who's talking, right? Me.
I know.
Look at this. Gray beard, huh?
Anyway.
Oh, I forgot to put on my hat again.
She was saying that she had to have a couple of times a Secret Service detail. And she said there were women on it. But the women were bigger than her. And they were muscular.
She's not that big.
No, she's not. But still, what she was saying, the detail that was given to her, she had women, but they were all bigger than her. They made sure that and she had talked to the...
Right, they have to be. Because otherwise, how do they block a bullet?
Right. And the other thing is...
she sighed.
I heard today that they have different designations for the types of details, Secret Service details. And the one that they gave Donald Trump, it goes A, B, C, D. A, B, C, D. The A team of the Secret Service was given to Jill Biden for one of her events the same day. He was giving the D team the least amount of Secret Service members to be with him.
Oh, not the least amount. He wasn't giving the full presidential package.
No, he wasn't.
He should have. The amount of threats and have they done it now yet? I'm sorry, Secret Service is really used to be something special. Now they're just
pawns.
They're just as bad as every other agency bureaucracy. They're just full of people that aren't excellent. We stopped meritocracy and we did DEI. It should be called DIE I call it die because it's going to just kill people. And it almost killed the president. It's almost killed how many people in airplanes?
I was just going to say they're falling out of the sky because of it.
Yes, man, they are. But don't worry, though. You got to keep those minorities working, even if they're going to, even if they're going to let planes fall out of the sky. I mean, at one point they said they investigated it, and what was I talking about? I'm sorry, I'm doing two things at once.
I'm going to get your hat because your head's shiny.
Oh, okay.
Oh, and welcome to our kitchen.
Just all I got to say is enough of this. Enough DEI. I can't wait till President Trump's in. Ending all this nonsense, all this DEI stuff, all this social justice equity, which is the opposite of meritocracy. What made this country great was meritocracy, not socialism, not social justice, not social welfare. No, and these people are like, oh, he's got to do that. He's got to make people work on welfare. It's like, well, good. Do you realize that what they call inner cities, I worked in, they're called ghettos. There are generations of people living on welfare there, never worked a day in their life. Generations upon generations. Why? So the only work they get is drugs and prostitutes. That's it. That's the jobs in the ghetto. That's it. And there's no men anywhere in the household because if there's a man in a household, then they lose their welfare. So all the men have baby mamas, but there's no fathers. It's not good for them. The Democrats have been keeping black people and brown people on the reservation for like ever, as far as I can remember. They're keeping them on the plantation.
Well, the destruction of the family unit was.
They want to say they want to put you back in chains. They're already in chains. It's called welfare.
That's the Communist Manifesto come to light.
I don't have a problem with people, especially right now, the way our economy is, availing themselves of taxpayer dollars that they've paid in. But to keep generations of people on welfare and cause ghettos like they have, just deserts, no businesses, just nothing but crime and poverty. I'm sorry, wasn't it Johnson who declared the war on poverty? Another Democrat. We still have poverty. Isn't that amazing? They created the Department of Education. You know what we had before the Department of Education? We had educated people. You know what we have now? Dumbasses.
Doofusai.
You've got 50, they said, a study came out, and this is not new. Over 50% of graduates with bachelor's degrees are functionally illiterate. How the heck can you even get out of high school if you're functionally illiterate? They're not teaching reading, writing, and arithmetic because that's racist. They're teaching social justice. That's why all these kids are confused. And they're out there marching for crap they don't even know what they're marching for. Because it's social justice. What do you mean? You gotta be on the side of the Palestinians because the Israelis are oppressors. How are they oppressing Palestinians? First of all, the UN created Israel where it sits. The UN did that. You want to be mad at someone, be mad at the UN, not Israel, who, by the way, right after they moved into their newly established homeland, which was their ancestral homeland, they were attacked by every Arab nation surrounding them. They thought they were going to wipe all the Jews out. Sometimes I think the UN did that to try and put all the Jews in one place because they were scattered around Europe.
That's what I was just
so
thinking.
that they could be wiped out. That's my personal opinion, considering how the UN treats them. You know how they treat them. This is ridiculous. There's never been a Palestine. There was one time in history where Rome called something that was Jewish land Palestine, but because the Roman Emperor decided to call it that, that's it. And after the Roman Empire fell, it was gone. So there's no such thing as Palestine. When Israel was put there, there was no Palestine. They were nomads called Bedouins. Look up Bedouin. That's Arab nomads. That's what they are. They were desert nomads. They didn't have a country. They didn't have a state. They didn't have a government. They didn't have anything. They had camels and tents. That's what they had. They were created for political purposes and been used for political purposes ever since. There's no reason why they can't go back into Arab countries where they belong because they're Arab. I defy you to get the UN to make them take DNA testing. And they'll come up Arab because that's what they are. There's no Palestinian DNA. So the whole thing is nothing but a setup to be used against Israel constantly. And they've been attacking Israel forever. And boo-hoo, that Israel's attacking them back. Boo-hoo. By the way, there are very few Palestinians that aren't terrorists. As children, they're taught to kill Jews. I've seen the videos where they ask the little girls, what are you gonna do when you see a Jew? Stab him, stab him, stab him. Yeah, little girl. She was like 5 years old. Maybe 5 years old. She might have been less than 5 years old. I don't know. She was little. But she knew how to kill Jews. First thing they teach them. So you're trying to tell me that all these so-called victims there are not Hamas terrorists? Horse crap. Hamas does not wear a uniform. Let's start there. Terrorists don't wear uniforms. They're terrorists. They're civilians. They look like civilians because they are civilians. You can't tell one civilian from the other. You can't say, well, that civilian looks like a terrorist. That dead civilian looks like a non-terrorist. You don't know that. Nobody knows that. But the overwhelming majority of Palestinians are terrorists.
You know, you've totally gone off the rails of the show.
I know. I have a lot to say. You never know what's going to set me off. Those of you who've listened to my shows for decades more, you know. You know how it works. All right. So any technical problems we have with this recording, obviously I'm going to work out, but this is only the second time. And I told you I just set up this computer right before the show. So we might need two microphones going. I really don't know. I haven't figured it out yet. We'll see. I never used to, but I have a mixing board downstairs. I'm not sure if it works. Do you know if it works?
No idea. I didn't even know we had one.
Well, we've been down here for 5 years.
4.
It'll be 5 years this fall. Picky.
I don't know if you want to do the beginning of this.
Reagan, Calvin Coolidge?
No, the article, because the guy who wrote it is talking that he wrote it. But I couldn't find what his name was.
Stephen Ratner.
Okay.
Is the one that attacked the Trump tax plan for being unrealistic. This is from the New York Times. But it says, in a column, today's New York Times. So the Cato Institute is using the Stephen Ratner attacks column to take apart his argument.
Okay.
It's really pretty well done. It could be better because never brings up Calvin Coolidge, brings up Reagan, which is great, but Calvin Coolidge was first.
Yep.
And you can look that up, Calvin Coolidge with Treasurer Andrew Mellon. He was vice president under Harding. Harding died. He became the president. He didn't want to be vice president, and he didn't want to be president. And he was our best president. That's always the way it works. It's the ones that don't want to do it. Those are the ones you want. And what Trump wants? No, Trump doesn't. No, he even said he didn't want to do it. He'd rather be home with his grandkids.
Why would he?
No, why would anybody? Except narcissistic, power-hungry megalomaniacs, which most of them are up there. And they're mostly communists, by the way. And no more socialist nonsense. No left-wing, liberal, progressive, socialist, commie, fascist, bastard stuff. Commies, pure out commies. It's got to come out. How many people have close ties in our government to the Communist Chinese Party? That's the CCP, the Chinese Communist Party. How many? Do you know we have an active Communist Party in the United States that works openly against our government? You could look that up too. cpusa.org. CommunistPartyUSA.org. cpusa.org. When you get there, don't be confused. It'll look like the Democratic Party's website. There's a reason that it looks like that. And all these protests that are happening now, all the protests that's happened throughout our history, hippie movement, all of that. Yes, agents of the Communist Marxist, not Chinese Communist Party, but the Communist Party USA.
Feminism
has come forward. Yeah, it has come forward. And they left because they said this is just crazy. It's wrong. And they left. And now they come out and they say exactly what happened. It was run by the Communist Party. It was started and run by the Communist Party. All these things, all these protests you're seeing now, I'm telling you, it's run by the Communist Party. They're good at setting up these things. Now, the funding, that can come from any number of places, including George Soros. But Soros isn't actively, getting involved. He has to give the money to somebody else to do it. And Communist Party USA. Black Lives Matter, started by the Communist Party. In fact, the leader of Black Lives Matter admitted she was a card-carrying Marxist. You people got to understand. Stop with this notion that thinking back in history. Oh, the witch hunt with the Warner trials. What was it? Warren Commission. Which, by the way, the senator that gets blamed for it had nothing to do with it. It was the House Committee on Communism. So it was the House, and he was a senator. But it neither here nor there. Everyone went after them for trying to find out where the communists were, and now our government's full of them because they were onto something because it was really happening. Communist parties were infiltrating our government, and now they have drastically infected our bureaucracies and our actual elected cockroaches. Now, think about it. This explains why the Democrats behave the way they do, and some Republicans too, right? If they're in the pocket of the Chinese Communist Party and they're Marxists, it kind of explains what they do, the things they pass, the way they do things, the way they don't like the Constitution, etc. Yeah. So anyway, this was in the New York Times. It was a column by Stephen Ratner where he attacked Trump's tax plan for being unrealistic. Since I also think the proposal isn't very plausible, I'm not overly bothered by the message. However, Ratner tries to bolster his case by making very inaccurate and or misleading claims about the Reagan tax cuts. Now, this is the Cato Institute, which is a libertarian think tank, and they often get many things wrong, like his tax cuts aren't reasonable. Well, his tax cut that already put in that supposedly was trickled down voodoo economics again has worked. It's worked so well, Biden didn't get rid of it. He couldn't get rid of it. He needed the money that was being brought in by the tax cuts that he put in place. And the companies that were coming back here that he's claiming credit for was because of the policies put in place by the Trump administration. So this guy doesn't quite get it either. That's why he doesn't bring up Calvin Coolidge, because he doesn't understand. But I did, and I will, because under Calvin Coolidge, they kept cutting the rates on the top bracket, and lo and behold, more money came into the tax coffers every single time. Every time. And so, same thing happened under Reagan. No, it did not, because it didn't happen right away because of the Congress that was fighting him. Once it went into effect, it did, but it didn't go in effect his first year, so it didn't show up. What was happening was all the crap left by Carter that he was stuck with when he came in, and if anyone lived under the Carter years like me, it sucked.
And me.
It sucked. You had to wait online for gas on days based on your license plate number, odds and even days, when you could even get gas. Then everybody was online waiting for gas. And the price of gas went crazy through the roof. Well, Reagan got rid of all that crap. So anyway, back to this. The Reagan tax cuts, given my admiration for the Gipper, whose assertions cry out for correction, starting with his straw man claim that the tax cuts were supposed to pay for themselves. 4 decades ago, the rollout of what proved to be among our country's greatest economic follies, the alchemistic belief that huge tax cuts can pay for themselves by unleashing faster economic growth. Neither Reagan nor his administration claimed that the tax cuts would be self-financing. Instead, they simply pointed out that the economy would grow faster and that this would generate some level of revenue feedback.
Okay, I got to stop you there, which I don't like to do. But the reason that the tax cuts work and you get more money is because when you increase taxes on the rich, they're rich enough to find a way to hide their money.
Always.
And
they don't spend it, and they don't. Hence, they don't spend it, and they don't start new ventures.
That's the second thing I was going to say. They won't invest,
which means no new companies, which means no new employees, which means no more new tax revenue. So I'm sorry if you want it, this nonsense. He wants to start from the middle up, bottom down, middle up, whatever the heck comes out of his mouth that's stupid. Have you ever seen a poor person hire somebody? No, they don't have any money to hire people. Middle class people, do they start businesses? No. If they do, they're no longer middle class because they start making more money. If they're smart, they do, but mostly we're workers. I grew up in a working class family. That's what we were. Union, working class family. I hate unions, by the way. Anyway, and I don't live in a great place for that. If people around here found out, they'd probably have slashed tires. Anyway, so back to this, yes?
Yeah.
Okay. Which is exactly what happened.
Would generate some level of revenue feedback, which is exactly what happened.
Right. Heck, even leftists agree that there's a Laffer curve. Now, the Laffer curve, again, is based off really, it was Reagan administration Laffer came from there, but it started with Andrew Mellon and Calvin Coolidge. They already did this. It didn't make a fancy curve to put up on a chart or anything. It just works. You don't need a chart. You don't need a curve. It's just a fact. You just do it and it works. Even Kennedy knew that. Kennedy cut the tax on no one talks about this. He was a tax cutter. He went over to Austria, learned about the Austrian School of Economics and said, that's what we need. Came back here and instituted it. If you don't know what it is, you should look it up. Austrian School of Economics. It basically is the only kind of, the Chicago School is really based off, it was really a satellite of the Austrian School because the people from the Austrian School, which was, man, my brain today. Anyway, two made people. I'll remember next show, I'm sure. I'll remember 5 minutes after the show. I'm sure it's when my brain works. I haven't used. Oh, yeah, Hayek. Ludwig von Hayek and Ludwig von Mises. Mises was first, Hayek was second, was a student of Mises. But they both went to the Chicago School and started the Chicago University and started the Chicago School of Economics. So everyone that touts the Chicago School because of it was made popular and it's in the USA don't understand that is the Austrian School of Economics. I mean, there's some differences they decided to tweak, but it's the same. It basically gets rid of this Keynesian stuff. Government doesn't get to control. By the way, there's nothing in the Constitution that allows the government to control the economy, but they do. That's Keynesian economics. And Keynes said, even when they turned it to paper and he got this, he shared a Nobel Prize with Hayek, by the way, which were two completely opposite schools of economics. Even he said he didn't know if it would work. And it doesn't. But it gives the government more power. But it doesn't work because you are the economy. We, the people, are the economy. If you leave us alone and unleash us, the economy will go crazy. There's no raising lower interest rates. First of all, they're not supposed to be borrowing money. It's nothing in the Constitution that allows that. So they can't be selling T-bills and all this nonsense that they do. They should be printing money because it says coin money. It doesn't say print money. It says coin money. I don't care if times change. Too bad. Change the Constitution through the amendment process. Anything else is illegal. Moving on. Trying to, anyway. The only disagreement is the point where tax receipts are maximized, and I don't care which side is right on the issue since I don't want to enable bigger government. Anyhow, Ratner also wants us to believe the tax cuts hurt the economy. The plan immediately made a bad economy worse.
That was from his article.
Right. Now, I don't know what the heck he's talking about. The economy was fantastic under Trump. It was going gangbusters, and if it wasn't for COVID, it would have been historically unmatched. And it's going to be again. It's Biden that destroyed the economy by trying to undo everything Trump did. So the plan immediately made the bad economy worse. It immediately put thousands of dollars in the hands of the average American. Yeah. The average American, not the rich people, the average American.
See, and if you read down more on the article, it's saying what you said to me before we started the show, that the reason that, well, you can read it, but the reason that Reagan's tax cuts didn't go into effect right away was because of the Congress he was fighting.
I just said that.
Yep.
This is remarkable blindness, the author says. I don't know why he doesn't put quotation marks anywhere to delineate where the other person is talking, but this is remarkable blindness and or bias. The double-dip recession of 1980-82 was the result of economic distortions caused by bad monetary policy. By the way, Reagan deserves immense credit for having the moral courage to wean the country from easy money policy. But even if one wants to ignore the impact of monetary policy, how can you blame the second dip of the recession, which began in July 1981, on a tax cut that was signed into law in August 1981? Let me try that again. The recession, which began in July 1981, on a tax cut that was signed into law in August 1981. For those of you on the left that might be tuning in, August comes after July. Moreover, while Reagan's tax cut was adopted in 1981, it was phased in over several years. And because of previously legislated tax increases, as well as inflation-driven bracket creep prior to 1985, households were pushed into higher tax brackets by inflation, even though their real income did not rise. The economy did not enjoy a tax cut until 1983. Not coincidentally, that's when the economy began to boom. Randy even wants us to believe the Reagan tax plan caused higher interest rates. The Reagan tax cut increased the budget deficit, helping elevate interest rates over 20%. This is the author in New York Times. Now I'm getting what he does. He puts 3 dots in front of it, which means it's continued from somewhere else doofus. It doesn't mean it's a quote. It's actually confusing because it means it's something that is part of something said before.
I know, and they keep changing that stupid book that everybody, and we have a copy.
And that's what 3 dots means. And I don't care what book comes out and says what. Any idiot that doesn't use quotations for quotes is a moron. The Reagan tax cut increased, and there's a lot of libertarians that are morons. The Reagan tax cut increased the budget deficit, helping elevate interest rates over 20%, which in turn contributed to the double-dip recession that ensued. The stock market fell by more than 20%, so claims the New York Times. Now, back to the Cato Institute, the deficit is jumped mostly because of the double-dip recession, just as Reagan always climbs when there is an economic downturn. He can't spell either. And use spell checkers, because that's not a real word. And interest rates were high largely because inflation was so high. Lenders don't like to deliberately lose money. But the most amazing part of the above excerpt is that Ratner wants us to believe the Reagan tax cuts caused the part of the double-dip recession that occurred in 1980 when Jimmy Carter was still president.
And he's so happy because now
Jimmy Carter.
He is not the worst president we've ever had. The other thing I want to bring out is lenders don't like to deliberately lose money. That's what they were saying at the Trump trial. Why would we lend him money if we weren't going to get
That's
returns?
not what they said. They said they lent him the money. He paid off the loan. They made money. They're happy. That's what they said at the trial. And how you could be convicted of doing something. The only people that could have been defrauded were the people that lent them the money, and they said they weren't defrauded. So why was there a case? Why was there a trial? Trial wasn't about anything that he was convicted for.
Did they throw it out, actually? I think.
They did not throw anything out. Oh, no. Merchant's trying to figure a way to keep it on life support. It should be thrown out because the dumbass commie judge allowed things into evidence that should not have been allowed into evidence. And that was part of the Supreme Court decision, since they allowed evidence that he made payments while he was president. That can't be used in a court of law because he has presidential immunity for things he's done during official acts as president. So they allowed this stuff in that they shouldn't allow in, that got thrown out by the Supreme Court, essentially. There's a lot more that would be overturned by the appellate anyway, Susan. I mean, the whole thing is a clown show. There is no way that these felonies are going to stand anyway. It's not going to. Just like the one where, the crazy female that obviously is too horny. Supposedly he's got to pay all these millions of dollars he had to put into escrow, which she tried to go after the escrow company, saying that they're a fraudulent company, blah, blah, blah. It didn't work. But anyway, that's going to be overturned as well because that whole case was nonsense. So far, he's not going to be convicted of a darned thing.
But him and his family still went through it. It makes me cry.
They're still going through it.
It really does.
Because this guy already came out and said he's not stopping. The illegal special counsel would not be allowed to do anything because the Supreme Court already said his appointment was unconstitutional. Therefore, he can't bring cases about anything. He can't investigate anything because he wasn't properly approved by the Congress, which is required. Not just appointed by the DOJ, working for the DOJ, which is going after the president's political opponent for political reasons, which they already said they were doing before they did it. And yes, I keep forgetting the counsel's name because I despise him, and he's been around before. He's a left-wing kook. He's an attack dog for the left wing. That's all he is. So I firmly believe that everything he's involved with is already over because if it goes to the Supreme Court, they're going to toss it all out. So it's a waste of time. But he says he's going forward with all these because even if he's elected, if he could get him thrown in jail before he gets sworn in, then he can't be president. But that's not true. There's nothing that says that a convicted felon cannot be a president. That's why he's still running for president. He's convicted.
That's why his T-shirts are selling so well.
It doesn't matter. He can be president from jail. There have been senators and a senator, a House of Representative people, at least one that I know of, that didn't resign from their seat when they were put behind bars. They voted from jail. So I don't know what. Oh, it's his late. That's why I can't remember. It's generic Smith. That's why I don't. This guy is just stupid. He doesn't understand. He doesn't even understand the law. I don't understand how he's a lawyer, because he doesn't understand the law. He just understands how to attack people with the law. But if you don't get a crazy kook judge, it isn't going to fly. That's why Judge Cannon, nothing's working with her. And everyone's like, she needs to be served. She needs to be impeached. She needs to be kicked out. She needs to be taken off the case. She needs to be dead. She's the only judge actually being a judge. Everything she's decided, in her opinions, in this case, were correct. You may not like it because you hate Trump, but they're still correct. So, get over your Trump derangement system and stop trying to use the judicial system for political purposes, because that turns around and bites everyone in the backside, and it can bite you in the backside just as well as it can a right-wing person. It can go after a left-wing person too. If there are no rules and they could do whatever they want, and they could do it to everybody. Careful what you wish for. You might just get it. Remember, there might be a new administration in power. He can abuse the DOJ just like anybody else, right? He's not going to. But yes, he is going to go after all the criminals that abused the DOJ and get rid of them.
Just going off on a little curve here. I can't believe that the Biden family is the absolute worst criminal family in the White House, because the Kennedys were also criminals. They came from a criminal background. Yeah. But the Bidens are 3 times worse.
They made their money on bootleg rum, whiskey, whatever they were selling. Bootleg liquor. They were bootleggers. That's what his family was. The Kennedys. That's where they got their money. Everybody wants to make them royalty. They were criminals.
But the Biden,
whether you liked prohibition or not, it was the law. It was they amended the Constitution to make that law. That's the right way to do things. And then they amended the Constitution to get rid of it. That's the right way to do things. You're supposed to amend the Constitution, not just pass laws. They only have the power to pass laws what the Constitution directly gives them the power to do. And the Constitution comes from we the people. It is a contract. It doesn't live and breathe. It doesn't change over time. The founding fathers talked about it. They knew they couldn't see into the future and things would change. That's why the amendment process was put in place. And it was made extremely difficult for a reason. If the overwhelming majority of the people don't want it, the government doesn't get to do it. They have to beg us for the power. That's the way it's supposed to work. They just take it now, and we just let them because we're used to it. It's been happening for so long. It's like, well, it's just the way it's always been. Well, it hasn't always been that way, just as long as you've been paying attention, but that's not the way it used to be. It's not what made this country great. What made this country great was limited government and meritocracy, period.
That was my fault. Going off on a curve.
Well, we're never going to get through this article.
I know.
Should we? All right. Anyway, this sort of like Paul Krugman trying to imply that Estonia's 2008 recession was caused by spending cuts that took place in 2009. You also won't be surprised to learn that, oh, by the way, he's the one they always talk about, a Nobel laureate economist. Anybody that's a Keynesian economist is a complete moron and or communist criminal. Pick one. Yeah, but he's a global laureate economist. Yeah, and he's wrong. Every time he talks, he's wrong. I've never seen him right yet. He's a political hack economist. That's all he is. You also be surprised to learn that Ratner selectively likes Keynesianism. big deficits can sometimes be advisable, as they were in aiding recovery from the 2009 recession. I guess he wants us to, man, he's bad as you are. He wants us to applaud Obama's abominations, so-called stimulus, and be impressed by the very anemic recovery that followed. But we're supposed to overlook the booming economy of the Reagan years. Last but not least, it's noteworthy that Ratner, in spite of his bias, endorses part of the Trump tax plan. I understand our need to lower the corporate tax rate to compete with other countries, which right now we don't because it's higher. Trump brought it down. Needs to go down even more. I understand our need to lower the corporate tax rate to compete with other countries and adjust other provisions to keep companies and jobs here. Critics are correct that our business tax structure encourages companies to ship jobs and even themselves overseas. And even folks like Ratner realize that the current corporate tax system is indefensible. That explains why I am semi-hopeful that we'll get a lower rate at some point in the near future. Now let's look at broader lessons from the Reagan tax cuts. We're not going to look at the broader ones because that's good enough. Don't you think?
I do.
I do too. Did I just put the microphone right in your way? I did. Sorry. I wanted to move it closer to us, but I can't. I can only move it closer to Susan. Sorry, she wanted me to wear my ratty hat. So, not me. I have a dress hat. This is my work hat. So, anyway, so we'll move on to another topic. If I could scroll through all this nonsense. This is a very long article. You can go look it up at the Cato Institute. Links will be posted. For some reason, I don't have it right now, but I will. So, what you should know about Social Security insurance that they're not telling you. You know, we've had to learn all about it, turning of age. So, what is age? 62 now? When you can start? Yeah. I'm 62, you're 63. Oh, I said a woman's age. Sorry. Yes, she's older than me. I'm young. I'm the young one.
Okay. So I'm going to read this first because I think you have to get up a link.
Oh, that's why that's here?
You told me just to give you the link.
Okay. Yeah, that's fine. But you didn't say that anywhere.
Okay, so this is about Social Security. This is the joke that Social Security really is. Because we're going to tell you how many people are eligible for our Social Security that don't even have to be citizens.
Hold on, we copy.
So anyway, this is going on to what happened this year. This is from AMAC magazine. I told you that we were going to be reading from some of this magazine because we just joined, and it actually is a really, really good magazine. They did a great job. That's how you know that they're conservative and Christians. So this is a article.
Wow, it's locked up.
That how can I get details about my Social Security payment? And it's called Ask Rusty. So we're asking Rusty. The annual cost of living adjustment for 2024 is 3.2%. Now, Brian had pointed out, I read this to him earlier, that we never got the cost of living adjustment for the longest time.
Who's we?
Social Security. We the people. Well, I'm Social Security.
We'll say retirees.
And that means your gross Social Security benefit goes up by that percentage starting in 2024, which it already did. But there was also a $9.80 increase in your Medicare Part B. That's cute. How cute. Premium starting in 2024, which means that you won't see all of the annual cost of living adjustment increase in your Social Security payment. Since your Medicare premium is deducted from your Social Security, cute again, and that Medicare increases will also be taken from your Social Security payment. So you won't see the full 3.2% increase in your 2024 Social Security payment. Thank you so much.
Something has gone wrong with my operating system.
That's all right. We got more to do.
I can't copy that.
That's fine.
Everything. I can't do anything. I can't even open something new. It won't let me.
But anyway, you had some really big thoughts on this about the increase and then the decrease. Because it's $9.80 increase in your medical payments. But the 3.2%, they said, is also an increase, but it really is not.
You get an increase, but then they're going to charge you. They're charging. I forget what else they're doing. It should be right there.
They're charging the Medicare Part B.
What are they charging?
The $9.80 increase.
Well, there's your math. It went Part B went up $9.80. That's not the good stuff. You got to get like Part D to get decent coverage, because you have to pay more. But so they increased it $8, but they only increased cost of living 3%.
Yeah.
Which real inflation is 18% right now. They don't count energy and food and anything else that's inconvenient. But those two very important things, they don't count in their inflation calculations.
Nope.
So when they say 6%, that's without food and gas and heating oil and all that.
Electric, yeah.
So electric. So all these things that have gone skyrocketing and you have to pay for, they're not counting. The real inflation rate is 18%. They gave a cost of living of 3.6%.
3.2.
3.2. So, and they haven't given one for years. So how does that keep up with inflation, which is the cost of living went up, but they didn't count, again, lodging, energy, and food. So rents went up for people retired. Food went up for people retired. Energy went up for people retired. That's utility bills, everything. Gas, all of it. So all these years, that's been going up, especially under Biden now. And they didn't give them one. And now they say, look, we're giving them a cost of living raise of 3.6%. Well, that doesn't even keep up with the cost of living for 1 year, yet alone 5 years. And on top of that, they're increasing what they charge them for healthcare 8-point-some%. Anybody that knows basic math, I know that's racist, but anybody that knows this racist basic math knows if you take 3.6 from 8 point, I don't know what it was, 8.2, whatever, you come up with less.
Yep.
Now, if you do it, that tells you the difference between the two. Now, if you want to know how much they didn't raise the cost of living, let's take the 3.6 and subtract 18.2 from 3.6. Now you have a negative number, don't you? I'm not doing the math for you. You have a negative number. 14-point-something%. Negative. So they lost 14-point-something% right there, just in that calculation, just what's going on in Social Security. They lost 14%. They didn't go up for it. They lost 14%. Now they lost 18% inflation on top of that. Now you're talking 32%. They've lost 32% of their money, their income. That's what we're doing to retirees. We're going to go back to the days where they're eating cat food, if they can afford that. Because cat food ain't that cheap either. Used to be, but it's not. What about tuna fish, Brian? Go ahead. Go check out a can of tuna fish.
Yeah, it's really expensive.
You got to, if you're going to eat enough tuna fish to stay alive, and it won't make you healthy because you're only going to you don't get everything you need from tuna fish.
And forget about eggs.
Eggs are
like $5 a carton.
You remember when they said, so eat more eggs. And then the eggs went up. And then what happened? Eat cereal. So you want me to eat cereal 3 times a day. Meanwhile, they're trying to get us not to be diabetic and obese. But if you want to be diabetic and obese, eat cereal 3 times a day. You will be both. You cannot live on that much sugar. That's just Well, there's some cereal. No, I haven't found any cereal that didn't have a lot of sugar. The healthy cereal has too much sugar.
Well, cornflakes.
Cornflakes.
That's what I eat.
Notice
'Cause I can't have
cornflakes is
sugar.
kind of sweet. There's sugar in there.
No, I
There's-
know there's sugar,
There
but
has to be.
I looked at the packages when I first started going on the special diet
Well,
I had.
next time you buy a box, look at it.
And I was looking at the carbohydrates and the sugars
Getting my coffee.
on the boxes, and the people thought I was crazy because the one lady was like, "Are you looking things up?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm looking at the ingredients." But yeah,
That's why they put them on the label.
It was amazing how much sugar is in cereal.
You know, people don't even veil themselves with looking at the label. Do you realize the government makes them put all that stuff on the label? It costs money. That means it costs you money, extra money to buy the food that has the labeling. All the labels, all the stuff they make them put, in a lot of cases, reason why it's so small, you can't read it without a magnifying glass, is because that's the only way to get it on the damn label. It's crazy, I'm telling you.
Since we were talking about Reagan and we're talking about Social Security, I have a part of an article that includes both.
Oh, no.
Okay.
She's injecting new stuff into the program. So Susan's doing it again.
4 decades ago, our Social Security system went through a period of brinkmanship when, in the words of President Ronald Reagan, it faced legitimate alarm that Social Security would soon run out of money. The National Commission on Social Security Reform, aka the Greenspan Commission, another commission, Brian, even Reagan was going into that silliness, took up the challenge in 1982, and after a year of deliberation, we paid for these people's salary for a year to deliberate, provided a blueprint for shoring up the program and staving off insolvency for the long term, defined as a 75-year valuation period. So they really didn't solve anything. They projected for 75 years, this might happen, that might happen.
Okay, let me explain to you why it's not fixed. Originally, when they created Social Security unconstitutionally, they did not amend the Constitution, unconstitutionally took our money for Social Security. It was originally designed to be a widow's fund. In other words, they expected the men to die before retirement age, and their widows would get Social Security. That was the whole idea. And there was 7 to 10 people putting into Social Security for every one person on Social Security. Right now, we're down to about 1-to-1, 2-to-1, 1-to-1, somewhere around there. And they spent all the money. There's this notion that there is a Social Security lockbox, a Social Security fund that they keep all our money in, is a lie. It's nothing but government bonds. It's a safe full of government bonds. You know what government bonds are? It's an IOU. And when someone previously, who I didn't even like, said it, was attacked for it, he was right. It's an IOU. And worse, it's an IOU to yourself. It's like you having a box of cash and you take money out of the cash, right? Take money out. And then you go spend it. But you put an IOU in the box. Now you have to pay back that IOU, right?
Yeah.
Well, the government doesn't have any money. They can't pay back IOUs. So you're the holder of the IOUs. Taxpayer dollars has to pay to recoup the money in those bonds. They don't have money. They can print it, but that devalues the dollar. It doesn't actually accomplish anything, despite what people like to believe. We can just print all we want. That doesn't matter. We can just print money. Really? Our deficit right now is so bad, we have had our credit downgraded. Our interest, our payments on the interest is now one of the most, it's more than Social Security. To pay the interest on our debt is more. Because of Biden doing his policies with just drastic debt, continued deficit spendings for no reason other than he wants to. We got to pay for all these things. Well, that caused finally the credit people to go, I'm sorry, and they downgraded our credit. So that increased our interest rate. So we're paying more because of it. It's got to stop. It gets worse from there. Oh, wait, that's going to make me talk about the petrodollar. Everyone knows about the petrodollar, right? This happened in the 70s, where our government and Saudi Arabia had an agreement. Saudi Arabia would only accept U.S. dollars for oil. That made us the petrodollar of the world. In other words, it increased the value of our dollar because you can't buy oil without U.S. dollars. Well, that contractual agreement ended, and Saudi Arabia is no longer honoring it. Therefore, now they're taking any money that they want from any country for oil. That means it devalued our dollar. Printing all the money they printed devalued our dollar. So you have all this interest, right?
Are you flying?
Yes. And then you have all this inflation. Whee! It's way up here, so it's off the screen. It's inflation, right? That's increasing the price of everything. Well, they decrease the value of the dollar at the same time. So that makes everything even more expensive. It's just and his war on oil has made transportation of goods more expensive. Everything is coming together to cause all these prices you're experiencing, and Trump has a plan to get rid of all of it. It's real easy. Get rid of all the nonsense that Joe Biden's doing, really, and put back his plans that he had, and then some. He's going to do MAGA on steroids this time. You wait, you watch. It's going to be huge, huge, huge. I'm telling you, huge.
It's going to be fabulous.
No, I'm trying to do Trump. I can't do his voice.
Okay, so
there's a comedian that does a great job.
Yeah, he does.
He really does a good job.
So, okay, well, I'm going to go on.
Okay.
So why are we now hearing that Social Security's financial life expectancy has been shorted by 25 years? In several recent public conferences, Social Security's chief actuary, Steve Goss, noted that despite the Greenspan Commission key future workforce assumptions, birth rates, mortality rates, etc., being extremely accurate, Social Security's financial situation was worsened by an estimated 80% because of unanticipated economic experience. He went on to describe the cause to be a phenomenon labeled income dispersion. Income dispersion. But look, this is, again, going back to when they're doing the economy itself. They didn't count all this stuff in when they were doing the 75-year evaluation. They didn't count it.
They can't, because if they can, look, everything in the government is corrupt. Every bureaucracy is corrupt. Every single one of them. I don't care, Congressional Budget Office that does the ratings on the budgets. They lie. They lie. No, they used to claim, well, we got to use the numbers they send us. We don't have we can't do anything about that. That's horse crap. Yes, they can. They can go, well, you're missing stuff. But they don't on purpose. And they've been caught actually massaging the numbers themselves. Look, the commies are in charge. You can call them whatever you want, left-wing, liberal, progressive, socialist, commie, fascist, statist bastards. They're all Marxist commies. I don't care. They all have Marxism in them. And anything with Marxism in it will fail. It has failed throughout history. It has never succeeded, and it never will succeed. No, the Communist Party's success is because there's quasi-capitalists. They have a capitalist side, and then the country's run like a communist country, but then they have corporations that they control that work in the market and sell us all these goods that, we need to stop buying. Like, I made the mistake of ordering a hat. I didn't know it was coming from China. It was not what I ordered, and I'm not going to get my money back. So don't order anything coming out of China. Nothing.
Okay, so Mr. Goss characterizes dispersion as a difference in you're going to have to explain this because I don't even understand it.
But
How he characterized dispersion. as a difference in where real wage growth occurred. He notes that real wage growth for the roughly 6% of top earners was more than 3 times that realized by the bottom 94%. He further suggests that the current proportion of total payroll subject to taxation is expected to remain relatively constant in the decades ahead, absent legislative changes.
Okay, this is what needs to happen. And I said it in the show before. We took a hiatus, and much like Trump, I don't want to be here. I don't want to do this. This is a lot of time, effort, and work. I got to pay attention to politics all the time now, the news, everything. I got to watch things like MSLSD just so I know what they're doing.
No!
Yeah. News Nation, Scripps News, CNN, all the craziness. It doesn't make me happy. It makes me unhappy. And I understand why people disengage from politics and pay no attention anymore, because you can't. It's depressing. It's not easy to deal with.
Do you know they took Morning Joe off the air?
Yes, Joe and Mika off MSLSD. They'll probably go to CNN because that's the MSLSD somehow got more popular than CNN. I can't figure out why, other than CNN isn't crazy enough for people. I mean, the Communist News Network is not crazy enough, so they have to go to MSLSD for their nonsense. They're idiots over there, and they're commies, and they're in the tank for the DNC. You're never going to get the real deal from them. But so I don't understand why people bother. Like, I have to, because if I'm going to do a radio show, I got to pay attention to what everybody's doing. I don't want to, but I'm doing it for you. Please appreciate it.
Okay, so talk about this.
So yes,
I don't understand.
Speaking of which, appreciate it. Spread the news. Get people to listen to the show. We got to educate people. We got to get the word out. Otherwise, I'm just wasting my time talking to myself. What do you the plan to get? Look, the only thing that's going to fix this is you have to set an age where nobody's going to get Social Security after this age. I haven't crunched all the numbers. I don't even have all the numbers, and because you can't trust anything the government does, don't listen to statistics from the government because they're not real. Okay, the numbers aren't real anymore, so it's very hard to get real numbers. But let's use an arbitrary age: 40 years old. If you're 40 years old today, you're not getting Social Security, and I'm willing to bet you're not going to get it anyway. At this rate, it's going to go bankrupt. You're not going to get Social Security. You could drop it to 30. It really does. Whatever number you pick, it's got to be somewhere between 30 and 40, though. Now it's time to put away for your own retirement. You open a retirement account, take 10% of your money, put it away. If you can, 20% or more, put it away for your retirement. You should have an emergency fund, a retirement fund, and a medical fund. If you don't, start getting on it now, because things are going to change and you're probably going to need it one way or another. Even if you're on Social Security, Medicare sucks. So you're going to need all this stuff anyway. Car breaks down, you need an emergency fund. Medical bills, you need a medical fund. All this stuff you can get tax deferred or tax free as long as you use it for what it's for. If you got kids, you want an education fund, but please don't send your kids to college. I mean, really, it's a meat grinder in there. They're not educating anybody. Let them go learn a trade where they can make real money and be happy. Raise a family, put money away like we just talked about. They pay a lot of money for the trades. If you don't know what trades are, plumber, electrician, heating, air conditioning, those kind of things. Carpentry. All these things they pay big money for. Boiler makers make tons of money. So welding is also auto mechanics. See, all these things they can make a lot of money at, and they don't have to go to college, and you don't have to spend $100,000 or whatever it is, $50,000 for a degree. It's cheap, it's faster, and you start making money. That's what you want to do. Make money as soon as you can. So you go to the trades instead of college because, trust me, there's a lot of people unemployed with a college degree because it's become worthless, sadly. And the only way to fix that is to get the government out of education. So that's the thing. You're not going to pay into Social Security if you're under the cutoff, and you're not going to get Social Security. So the money that's coming out for Social Security, put it in the bank. Put it in CDs. Put it in good investments that you can get a guaranteed return you're happy with.
You know, we were brought up that don't worry about your retirement because you're going to have Social Security. Well, our whole generation was not brought up in investing.
Not true. It was two things on Long Island. It was union job, union pension, Social Security. That was it. You don't have to worry about it because you have the union pensions and Social Security, so you're covered. Don't worry. I was told if my parents and my family were not union nut jobs, and they could have told me, "Don't be stupid. Take 10% of everything you make and put it away for your retirement." No, that's not my advice. My advice was don't put anything away for retirement.
Yep.
Just get a union job and retire.
Yep.
That's it. And by the way, I learned to hate unions because they're collective bargaining, which means they're communist, in my opinion. But worse than that, collective bargaining means everybody makes the same amount of money, regardless of how good you are at your job. You could be the worst at your job, and you could be the best at the job, and you're going to get the same amount of money. You know what this breeds? Laziness. Who's going to work hard if they're not going to get rewarded for it? That's meritocracy. Take meritocracy away, you get schlubs. That's what we get. We get schlubs. I know. I was a civil servant. I've seen them. What are you going to do? Fire me? You can't. You can't fire them for not doing a good job. It's a civil service job that's protected. I can't ask for a raise because it's union. It's collective bargaining. You can't get a personal raise. It's horrible. It's a horrible way. It's a horrible way to live. It's a horrible way to work. I'm sorry. Unions got to go. So that's it. I know. I know. There's a lot of people out there freaking out right now listening to this because they love unions. Trust me on this. Union, once upon a time, way back in history, they were a benefit to the workers. Now they're not. They're in the way. They're causing money. They're using the money for political purposes to undermine our country. The unions got to go. People need meritocracy at work so that they can get raises when they earn them. That's it. So you cut the people off at 40. The rest of the people can retire normally and have to pay Social Security until they do. That's how you save the program, by weaning people off it so that they can go and put money in the bank and save money. And for those of you that used to listen to my show, this is not alcohol. It's coffee. I don't drink anymore. No, I didn't go to AA. I wasn't an alcoholic. I drank too much. I got saved, and for some reason the Holy Spirit said stop drinking, and so I stopped drinking. That's how it happened. I just stopped. I occasionally have a beer with pizza or whatever, but that's it. And I mean occasionally because I can't afford it. So. And I just do it because it goes good with some food. Pizza, chili, beer. Oh, it's go good together. Cold beer. Cold beer after a hot day of work. It's nice. I don't get that, but occasionally I do. It's nice. So don't worry. And my eyes are a little red, bloodshot, because I have chronic dry eye. So that's how you save Social Security, and nobody wants to hear it, and that's the way it has to be done. There's no other way to do it. Sorry. So anyway, moving back to, I think we're running out of time, but maybe we can get the ups and downs of the week done. What do you think? Can we?
I don't know, but I know that you are sending me a lot of stuff from this Western journal I've never even heard of.
Oh, well, that's been around forever. You've never heard of it. That's sad, really. They actually do.
No, really, I've never heard of it.
They actually do a really good job. I've watched them since they first started on the internet. They've gotten really good. They've improved. They've got people, paying for their services, donating. They work on donations. They don't charge you anything. So you can go to their webpage and they won't say, oh, you can't read it unless you just go ahead and read it. All right, the ups and downs for the week. Down from Western Journal. America's political temperature began rising Monday, stoked by the campaign of the candidate who called for political calm. On Sunday night, President Joe Biden intoned about the need for us to lower the temperature in our politics. You can go ahead and feed her. They can't hear. Addressing the nation, he said, while we may disagree, we are not enemies. Biden continued, the political rhetoric of this country has gotten very heated. It's time to cool it down, and we all have a responsibility to do that. Then came Monday. That's one day. If you haven't figured it out, it's probably not even 24 hours. Then came Monday and the announcement that Republican Senator J.D. Vance, which was a mistake because we just lost the Senate seat, thank you very much, of Ohio would be Trump's running mate. Biden campaign chair Jen O'Malley Dillon. Why do we suddenly have three names now? Are we turning it to Mexico? Piled on. As noted by the National Broadcasting of Communism, Donald Trump picked J.D. Vance as his running mate because Vance will do what Mike Pence wouldn't on January 6th. Bend over backwards to enable Trump and his extreme MAGA agenda, even if it means breaking the law, and no matter the harm to the American people, O'Malley Dillon said.
I cannot stand this opinion. How many times did we say he was supposed to?
It was his constitutional duty to challenge that election, to challenge those electors. It should have been brought. It should have been, the votes should have been, he should have investigated. It was his responsibility under the Constitution as the head of the Senate to actually investigate that election because it was a nightmare. He's a coward. That's what he is. And he's a moron. I always said it. His IQ was low. He's not a smart man, Pence. Not at all. He's a conservative that never bothered to learn the Constitution, like most of them. And hence why it's politics as usual instead of real conservatism. He did not follow his constitutional obligation as the president of the Senate. So he broke the law. If he had done what they say J.D. Vance would have done and bend over backwards, blah, 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 then he would have done his job.
Right.
But that had nothing to do with bending over backwards for any MAGA anything. That just has to do with doing your job. You know, there's been contested elections. This is all gone. It has to go through the House. The House has to go, blah, blah, blah. It was Jefferson's election. He wasn't sworn in until May because the House was all locked up with figuring out who won the election because it was a tie. And so they had to figure out who they wanted. And they couldn't, and they really didn't want to because it was mostly, it was run at the time by a political party that was, let's say, not liberty-minded.
Now, none of the judges, none of the courts would take this up, but they didn't have to. You didn't have to go to the court if they were investigating it.
It's not the court's job.
Thank you.
It is the government's job. And they don't do their job. They don't follow the Constitution. No surprise. So they didn't do their job. And Biden was appointed, basically, as president. So it should... Look, I don't know how it would have turned out when it went through the investigation, went to the House, blah, blah, blah. But you know what? We'll never know because it didn't happen. And meanwhile, while everyone say, oh, he asked an attorney. Attorneys go to law school. It was run by commies that teach them not the Constitution, not common law, but their twisted version of the law, which basically just keeps lawyers in business. That's why there's so many lawyers. Once upon a time, you didn't need a lawyer. We're supposed to be under common law. Common law is common sense. You don't need an attorney for most cases. I mean, obviously, if you're accused of something like murder, you might want an attorney. But did you feed her?
She doesn't want it.
Oh, she must want me. What?
That's our cat. Welcome to our kitchen, and that's our cat.
Yeah, I don't know that she can hear the cat caterwauling back there, but she wants our attention, obviously. She heard my voice and her voice going, ah. All right, so she thinks I'm upset, so she's worried. But if you can hear her, we'll get through it.
I double pasted, so you can just go to the last line.
Boy, you really made a lot of mistakes in this copy. Oh, no. The National Broadcasting of Communism said two sources told it the Biden campaign. They're making mistakes in these articles, too.
I know.
So the National Broadcasting said two sources told to the Biden campaign, told by the Biden campaign, of the Biden campaign?
Told it. I don't know.
Will characterize Vance as extreme. Donald Trump picked J.D. Vance as his running mate because Vance will do what
you already read that.
Mike Pence wouldn't. Well, I went another line. You told me to go another line.
No, that's fine.
So NBC said two sources told it the Biden campaign will characterize Vance as extreme. It's also double tap, sort of weird. No, what did you do exactly? All right. Moving along to an up from the Western Journal again. As it should have, President Joe Biden's disastrous, deadly withdrawal from Afghanistan in 2021 played a large part in last Thursday's presidential debate. Presumptive GOP presidential nominee Donald Trump made it clear that during his term, he had negotiated a way out of Afghanistan, but that this withdrawal was based on conditions on the ground. As far as Afghanistan is concerned, I was getting out of Afghanistan, but we were getting out with dignity, with strength, with power. He got out. It was the most embarrassing day in the history of our country's life, Trump said, according to a transcript. Oh, I heard it. That's what he said. And Biden bungled the aftermath, Trump said, noting that the current president, quote, doesn't fire people. He never fired people. I've never seen him fire anybody. He should have fired every military man that was involved with the Afghanistan horror show. Something was cut there. The most embarrassing moment in the history of our country, end quote. So, what would a Trump-led withdrawal from Afghanistan have looked like? It's possible to say at this point, but in a podcast interview published Wednesday, Texas GOP Representative Wesley Hunt gave a glimpse as to what it might have looked like. Hunt and Florida GOP Representative Byron Donalds were guests on the Sage Steele Show. It's called the Sage Steele Show.
I have no idea.
Hosted by former ESPN reporter, I'm in her chair, ESPN reporter Sage Steele. She's climbing the back of the chair. She's about to put claws into my back. Hunt and Florida GOP representative on the blah, 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 on the Sage Steele Show, hosted by former blah, blah, blah. When the topic turned to Afghanistan, the lawmakers agreed that weakness by Biden on the stage had bled over into our conflicts. Well, yeah, why do you think Russia invaded Afghanistan? Why do you think China is looking to invade Taiwan? Ukraine. I'm sorry.
It got Afghanistan Ukraine. On the brain.
Why do you think? Well, Afghanistan was kind of why, because they saw that and went, wow, between Biden being a feeble, dirty old smelly sock puppet, and then the way the military handled Afghanistan, it was like we're just a clown show. And so nobody takes us seriously anymore, and they're afraid Donald Trump's going to get back in, so they're doing what they can right now because he could stop them from invading a country, but how do you get them out of the country once they've already conquered land? See, that's the thing. They conquer land quick enough, then like they did with Crimea under Biden. That's right, Obama, Biden. administration then. He was vice president. He was president. Putin invaded Ukraine and took over Crimea. Afterwards, what's Trump going to do? Give it back? They're not going to give it back. How do you make them give it back? You can't make them give it back. They're doing the same thing now when they invaded Ukraine again. They're just trying to get as much land as they can before Trump gets there.
I'm glad that they reported on this because nobody knows about this. Nobody knows what he was doing. They glossed over it a little bit when he was doing the negotiations, but we really didn't know what he was doing.
How could he negotiate anything, or any of the people he has as emissaries, ambassadors? They're all equity hires. They're all political hires. They're idiots.
I'm talking about President Trump.
I know. I'm talking about that. What's he going to do about it? Nothing. But he could stop it from happening. There's no way under Trump that he would have invaded Ukraine again, and there's no way China would be threatening Taiwan. It just wouldn't have happened because they know Trump, and Trump's not going to put up with it. None of this would be happening. These warships wouldn't be off the coast of Florida right now. These Russian warships, nuclear vessels. Oh, we're supposed to take Putin's word that there's no nuclear weapons on their nuclear vessels. That's a Star Trek thing. Nuclear vessels. I'm sorry, I don't believe Putin. Do you? How do we verify that? You can't. So right now we have nuclear vessels sitting off the coast of Florida. Russian nuclear vessels. We have Chinese vessels coming into our territory on the Pacific coast. This is not good stuff. This is dangerous. We're talking about going to World War again against Trump and against against Putin and Xi Jinping, China, Russia and China. And I'm sure they're going to bring other people in, like, let me think, North Korea? Yeah, absolutely.
Iran,
that's a given. We're already at war with Iran. We just don't know it. They're at war with us, and we're not at war with them for some reason. Anyway, when you are weak and quote, when you are weak and our advertisers know you are weak, they push you, end quote, Donald said. Quote, it is no different than the bully in the schoolyard. Yeah, I know about those. If you're timid and a bully knows he can get away with it, what happens? He comes for your lunch money every week, every single day until you punch back. Yep, I had to learn that. Luckily, the person who raised me was not a big bad kid like me. He was a little guy. And he's like, you don't let anybody touch you without defending yourself. And I don't care if you have to pick up a stick and beat him with it, which was good because it turned out my bully was like a lot older than me and a lot bigger. So I did have to pick up a stick and go after him. But I didn't even have to hit him with it. He backed off, and that was it. And from that day on, I beat up every bully I saw bullying somebody.
You were the bully's bully.
I was. Well, I mean, if they stopped when I told them to, nothing would happen. But if they didn't, well, we had to throw down. That's the way it was. Nobody went to the hospital. They cried to the teachers. I got in trouble. Yes, back in the 70s, they were already starting that nonsense. Violence isn't the answer to anything. Really? When someone's punching you in the face, it sure helps. But yeah, I never had any free time. I was always writing, I will not fight. I will not fight. I will not fight. I will not fight. 1,000 times. I will not fight. It kept going up every time I got in trouble. Started out at 100 and just.
Yeah, like Bart Simpson.
Got to the point where I needed a notebook to do it. Yeah, like Bart Simpson, but not just on the chalkboard. That was not enough room. That's where I started on the chalkboard. It kept getting bigger and bigger. I had to do it during my lunch break. I did it during class too, while I was supposed to be paying attention. So anyway, I was just trying to say that because even in the 70s, that stuff was already happening in Long Island, New York, and we were pretty. I mean, we had dirt roads and wells and septic. I don't know. We had cesspools, not septic tanks. I don't think they were invented yet. And still, we had to put up with that at school. And oh yeah, Xmas. Remember Xmas?
Yep.
Yeah, it was Xmas, not Christmas. It was Xmas. Hunt then jumped in with what he called his favorite presidential Trump story. When we were negotiating with the Taliban, when President Trump was still the president, President Trump wanted to get out of Afghanistan, but he wanted a condition-based withdrawal, meaning there shouldn't be a period after meaning. Sorry, I hate that. You do what we tell you to do, and we will start pulling troops back slowly, as long as you abide by our rules, he said. President Trump and then Secretary of State Mike Pompeo were talking to Taliban. I don't trust him either, by the way, to Taliban leadership in the room, and they had one translator. President Trump looked at the Taliban leader and said this: I want to leave Afghanistan, but it is going to be a condition-based withdrawal. And the translator translated, and he said, if you harm a hair on a single American, I'm going to kill you.
He said that to a Taliban leader.
And the translator goes, he leans back. And Trump goes, tell him what I said. Hunt continued. And then there's nothing. Anyway, so that is a tough negotiator. What do you think whoever negotiated for 30-year-old smelly sock puppet said? Obviously wasn't that, because the minute they started pulling out, the Taliban was on the move. Trump would have blew them up. They were on the road coming towards the Capitol. Why did nobody blow them up? 30-year-old smelly sock puppet and the commies that they promoted to generals in the Pentagon are weak-willed, weak-kneed, useless, globalist pieces of crap.
Blinken, he always looks like he's a deer caught in headlights.
That's why he's got a good name, because he should just be sitting there blinking all the time. I mean, it's like, you got to be kidding me.
Who would be afraid of him? Nobody.
Blinken?
Yeah, nobody.
I didn't know. You look at his body language. Listen to what he talks. He looks like a wimp. He looks like someone that's been bullied his whole life and never got over it. Most left-wing people are people that got bullied when they were kids and never got over it. You know what? Because they didn't stand up for themselves. But you know what? It doesn't matter if you did or didn't. You should get over it. And I would say seek counseling, except the people, psychologists, psychiatrists are the same people. And you'll just spend 10 years learning to be narcissistic, because all you do is think about you. All they do is focus on you the whole time. They make you focus on yourself all day long, 24/7, questioning everything you think, everything you do. I don't see how therapy helps anybody anymore. I'm sorry. There might be good therapists out there, but they're not the majority. All right, the minute psychiatrists and psychologists tell me that homosexuals are normal, I'm done. That's the first question I'm going to ask anybody. If I ever wanted to see a therapist, and I don't, but if I ever wanted to, that's my first question. Are homosexuals normal? And if they say yes, I'm going to say, have a nice day.
I wanted to go through another AMAC article. That's why there's nothing there. And
we don't need to do 2 hours, I keep telling you, but since you want to do it.
Yeah, I do. So this is
By the way, if you're a retired person and you're not part of AMAC, you're messing up. You do not be part of AARP. AMAC now has plenty of discounts if you're worried about that too, and all the services, legal and all that stuff, but not by commie people. And they don't spend your money for commie causes. They spend your money for good, what the left would call far right causes and people. They're not far right. They're only far right because those people are left-wing cliff dwellers. They're just regular conservatives. They're regular right, but everything's far right with these people. If you don't agree with them, you're far right. So far right across the world, I've noticed it. If you don't agree with all their commie policies, you're a far-right nutjob. If you want to go back to common sense government, you're a right-wing nutjob. No, you're left-wing nutjobs. And we want our world back.
You know, I'm going to talk about the water crisis, but you have to tell people that you used to be the head of what?
Oh, that was a long time ago.
Yeah, long. That's what I mean. It's been going on forever.
Coalition Against Illegal Immigration. I got a group of bloggers. That's sort of like herding cats, if you've ever tried it. Bloggers are very independent. I got them all to agree to cross-post everybody's illegal immigration stuff every day in their blogs, and I would post all their stuff on the central blog, which was a boatload of work till I got helpers. And then the helpers, well, the first helper was great, and he died. The second one just didn't want to do it anymore, which is understandable. It's a lot of work. But the whole coalition kind of fell apart after the election, and the issue kind of went away. But of course, it came back now with steroids, and Coalition Against Legal Immigration is no more. And I'm not in no way, shape, or form willing to deal with that again. I'd be willing to get a group of people together to lobby the government, but I used to do that as the head of the coalition by myself all the time anyway. I even had conversations with the chief of staff for the Speaker of the House that went on for an hour and a half.
And this was decades ago.
Yes, it was decades ago.
Okay, so this is from AMAC again.
I'm old.
While Biden's border policies have resulted in a humanitarian disaster for those making the dangerous journey north, American citizens have also been directly victimized by the crisis. The reason I want to go through this is because there's way more murders than that anybody is reporting.
The lamestream media is not reporting it, but let's just call them the commie media. No more lamestream stuff. They're just commie media.
You're gonna have to help me with these names, though. Again,
what
names? The most high-profile case is that of Laken Riley, a nursing student who was brutally murdered. We knew that. Who was killed by an illegal alien named Jose.
You can say his
Ibarra.
name. You say whatever you want.
Charged in a killing. Ibarra was released into the United States.
It's an A is an A, though, not an O.
Oh. Who cares? Was released into the United States under Joe Biden's policies and was then arrested twice before allegedly committing the grisly act.
Which means he was let out twice, an illegal alien criminal, twice let out by the cashless bail nonsense. This is what the left is doing. This is what the Democrat Party, which is the left, is doing. They don't care about your safety. They want these people in here for a reason. They want the criminals in here to terrorize us so that we scream for help from the government so they can take more of our liberty away. And they want the rest of them here so they can vote, because they'll vote for Joe Biden and the Democrats because they're the reason they're in the country, and the only reason they're not being deported. And they're certainly not going to vote for Trump because he's going to deport them. So they're grooming a whole. They did this in Europe. That's why they have this problem in Europe. The European Union did it to them because for the same reason. They want to control us. Best way to do it is flood us with people that don't care about rugged American independence, individualism. We don't have that anymore, by the way. There's very few rugged individuals left. They have really kicked it out of us. But it's not enough. So they're bringing these people in to take our country away from us.
Just week after Riley's murder, Brandon Ortiz Viti,
wasn't done yet,
an illegal alien from Mexico.
But let me finish. This is important.
Okay.
Everyone thinks it's just the votes. Understand, there is electoral college votes, even if they don't vote, even if they don't register to vote, which they are actively registering to vote. That's already been proven. But even if they didn't do that, the census, they count everybody in the country. Everybody, including legal aliens, always have. That's why California has so many people in the House of Representatives and so many electoral college votes. If you don't know, those two are identical. You get the same amount of electoral college votes as you do representatives in the House of Representatives based on the population of your state. So these illegal aliens are being funneled into all these cities, left-wing cities, Democrat-run cities, because of all the people that moved out. So they're in a panic about losing their electoral votes in these states that guarantee Democrats get elected president. If they lose those electoral votes, and it doesn't matter how many, they start losing electoral votes from there, they're going to make it easier for the other side to win. So they're going to be counted no matter what for the electoral college. And also, just so you know, for people voting in the House of Representatives, there's already a bunch of them in there that are actually there because of illegal aliens being in the country. So they really represent illegal aliens. That would be people from another country. This is what's going on. It is much deeper than just voting.
Well, didn't we here in Montana, we gained one, didn't we?
But we grew for not illegal aliens.
No.
We grew from regular citizens coming in, which I'm not happy about either. Because they're coming from left-wing states that they always bring their politics with them and they always destroy the state they move into. Look at Colorado. Colorado used to be a solid right state. It used to be real rugged American individuals there, a lot of ranchers, farmers. All that was supplanted by ranchettes with people from California that moved in. They have a shoebox house in California they sell for $500,000, and they come here and they build 250,000 ranchettes on 5 acres and just blew up the population of Colorado, took over the politics, and now Colorado is a blue state and kind of crazy. So this is why I'm worried about Montana, and they know what they're doing. The political party knows they want to do this. They want to turn Montana. They've turned their focus on Montana to turn us blue like they did New Hampshire. There was a whole project. The left had openly did it on the internet, said we all need to move to, because it's such a low population, little state, we could take it over. And they did. And now they're doing it to Montana because we're a big state, but we have a low population. So by flooding us with a bunch of commies, it's changing our politics, which means it's changing our way of life. I didn't move here many, many decades ago, over 30 years ago, to have it turned back into where I left. But I have no much say in it, and there's nowhere else to go. So, I mean, I could go to South Dakota, but I don't know how long that'll last. Because they're leaving all the failed left-wing, left coast states, and they're moving out into our states and messing them up. It's just the way it is. The same thing's happening on the East Coast with people who comes from commie states, and they're moving into non-commie states, and they're changing their way of life. They're changing their whole state. They're changing the way they live. People don't understand that. It changes the way you live completely. Anyway, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but
That's okay. I don't know if we have enough time.
Like I said, there's no time limit.
Okay. So now Lincoln Riley was killed. Then just weeks after Riley's murder, Brandon Ortiz Viti, whatever, an illegal alien from Mexico who was deported in 2020 but crossed back into the country undetected, murdered
Don Ortiz Vite.
Murdered 25-year-old Ruby Garcia in Michigan. That's 2.
You got to get their names right so people hear it. You want to hear that name and remember it.
In early March, Raul Santana, another illegal alien from Mexico with a lengthy rap sheet, killed 27-year-old Washington State Trooper Christopher Gadd when he slammed head-on into Gadd's SUV. Santana was drunk and high on drugs at the time. These are 2 that we did not hear about.
So basically had a severe altered mental status and an illegal alien. See, this is the kind, they're all good people. No, they're not.
No, they're not.
And considering, and they really did open up their prisons and their insane asylums to send them this way when Biden just kept saying the border's open, come on in. Well, they're like, great. And let's get rid of our trash. And so, yeah, we got a boatload of trash.
Reports are also emerging of illegal alien gangs targeting homes for robbery, in some cases using sophisticated technology to dismantle alarms and even drones to scout potential targets.
Oh, yeah, I saw a whole thing where they put these hidden cameras so they can see you coming and going and know when you're not going to be home. And like they'll look like a rock in your garden, and it'd be woven in. It looks like almost a thin snake woven into your bushes so that they can see so they know when you're not home, so they can go in and steal your stuff. They've been doing this. It's happening. It's spreading. It's getting more popular.
One particularly notorious Chilean gang in California has robbed dozens of homes.
Yeah, at least they're not doing it when you're home. That is worse. The home invasion is worse.
Mm-hmm.
You better be prepared for that, because if they do break in when you're home, they're not there just to steal your stuff. Or they would wait. They would do what they're doing and make sure you're not home. That's called burglary. Home invasion means they're going to do you harm and your family. Whether it's just beat you up and rape your wife, daughter, whatever the case may be. They might even rape your male son. They might kill all of you.
Who are you looking at?
I'm looking at the microphone for some reason. They'll be killing all of you. All of you.
There?
I'm sorry. They'll be killing all of you. So, yeah. Please, 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 please be prepared. Take self-defense course. At least have a baseball bat in your house. At least. Firearms, much preferred. Please don't be scared of firearms. Take a course. Learn how it's just a tool. It's not going to jump up and kill anybody unless you want it to. So I highly advise everybody, take a course, get firearms, know how to use it. Make sure when you're home, it's available. If you got to run, put in a combination, open up a thing, take out your gun, load it before you can use it. By then, you'll be dead.
You know, Brian and I, we own guns. We always have since we left New York. But he has one that's readily available, which I have had to use.
I have 3 that's readily available.
Right. But I had, it was living where we live. We don't live in a great neighborhood. So, but it was right there.
Red light
right
district.
There when I needed it, though, Brian.
District.
Right there. As soon as stuff started to happen, I ran over and just grabbed the gun.
She did. I was stupidly out in the hallway without my gun. And someone threatened to kill me. Luckily, bluffing, he didn't have a gun. And luckily for him, I decided to call the police instead of putting him in a hospital. But I don't need a gun, really, unless they have one. But like I said, I was saved. I'm a good Christian. I know I'm not supposed to hurt people if I don't have to. And I didn't have to. So I retreated to my apartment and called the police. And they took care of it. Unfortunately, now I'm going to have to go to court, testify, because I guess they're not offering him a plea deal. It turns out he has other problems. The district attorney told me he has other problems as well as what happened here. I filed assault charges on him because he pushed his way into a private building and did so by physically pushing me out of the way. No, he couldn't have if I didn't want to, but the way he did it, there was no way to stop him without hurting him. And I didn't want to start an altercation. Okay, I'm talking to the microphone again. I'm doing it again. Not to mention, this thing is a mirror. So if I think to turn right,
I know. It's been
driving
me nuts. Driving me nuts.
See, that's right, but it's left.
Right.
But you're seeing it correctly, but I'm not.
Anyway, we're getting to the end of the show. I need you to do 2 announcements. Number 1, tell the people about the Patriots Pub and where they can find it. And number 2, about our show. And then we can go.
Oh, it's hard to tell them where the Patriots Pub is right now.
Okay.
Because I haven't purchased a domain for that. I have to spend money, and we don't have a lot of money. So, I got Uncooperative Radio, so if you want to listen to our recordings, you can go to uncooperativeradio.com. And you can listen to our recordings there. And I'm also posting, obviously, this is live on Facebook and X and YouTube. So you go to any one of those places, just do a search from Cooperative Radio or Brian Bonner when it comes to social media. I just use my name, Brian Bonner. It's not hard. I post all our stuff there. It's just posted automatically, supposedly what I'm doing right now. So it's there on X, Facebook. And if you want to listen live, that's where you go. Facebook, X, and YouTube. I don't know how to get you here because they don't tell me. There's a chat here, but I don't know how anybody can access it.
YouTube, we don't know how long we'll be on that. We've gotten kicked off before.
Oh yeah, I wouldn't count on YouTube. Yeah, I wouldn't count on YouTube. I've been banned from YouTube twice. So the only reason my Brian Bonner account is still up is I've never posted the radio show there. But now that it's going there, especially live, I don't know what I know. Last time I went to check on the live recording, it was being reviewed. What the heck do you mean being reviewed? It was supposed to be live. So what are you reviewing? Yeah, you can't trust it. Google took over YouTube. If you didn't know that, they also took over PayPal. They're in charge of Google, PayPal, and probably more. But I know of those things. If you didn't know, so there you go. How you can find Patriots Pub? Well, I put it up on Facebook and X a little at a time, but I am building up a repository again. And once I do that, I will hopefully have enough money for to pay for an address where you can actually go to Patriots Pub .whatever and see all the shows. Patriots Pub is not political. It is just U.S. history, the Constitution, the Founding Fathers, just the facts, no politics. So feel free, go over there and learn. We learned three scholars together, and we all learned a whole lot during that show. You will learn an immense amount of material, knowledge that you're not going to get anywhere else. We go through the Constitutional Convention day by day using James Madison's official notes. So, and you can find them if you want to find James Madison's notes. They're on, well, they used to be on the Avalon Project at Yale. The Avalon Project at Yale. That's a good place to go if you're into history and you want to look at historical documents and stuff like that. They have a vast repository of documents up there. You could spend a lifetime in there.
Okay.
With that said, this has been the Uncooperative Radio Show. I am your host, Brian Bonner from UncooperativeBlogger.com. You're listening to UncooperativeRadio.com. And say good night, Susan.
Good night, Susan.
And we're at it.